Alicia, one of the other naturalists here at the Elkhart County Parks, and I'm back again to continue our Nature A to Z series, this time with the letter W, W for wild grape. Wild grape is actually just the common name of the genus Vitis. And if we rewind to our last letter, letter V, Virginia creeper, wild grape is going to be another kind of vine. Just like Virginia creeper, it's a vine, but it's also going to grow in the same habitats, and it's even going to belong to the same family. But how do you tell wild grape from Virginia creeper or another kind of vine you might find growing? Well, let's first take a look at the vine, right? Obviously, it's going to be growing upward. Wild grape can grow up to 100 feet, and it's going to do that by using tendrils. And on wild grape, those tendrils almost look like curls coming out of the vine. It's going to use that to climb up the tree or whatever it's trying to scale to grow taller. You might see them down on the ground, but it's just a matter of time before they find something for their tendrils to grab onto for them to climb up. And mature grapevines, you'll notice, are woody vines. And if you look closely, the wood almost looks shaggy, which really makes it look different than like a poison ivy vine that's almost hairy. And then Virginia creeper we saw last week with those tendrils attaching it to the tree. That's another thing to note is wild grape is going to grow freely. It's not going to attach to the tree when it's mature. You'll see it hanging loose, sometimes a ways away, and I'll try to insert some cool footage of that, almost like a jungle vine. Another thing you can look at are the leaves. So the leaves of wild grape are going to be large. Some people say they're heart-shaped. I like to look for those 3 obvious lobes. They can have more really obvious lobes to the leaf. And you can also, most importantly, look at the margins or the edges. And you'll notice on wild grape, they're coarsely toothed. And that's going to be really important when you're setting them apart from another species of plant, moonseed. Moonseed looks very similar to wild grape. It has berries that look just like grapes, but it's toxic. And the best way to tell moonseed from wild grape is to look at the leaves. Moonseed does not have those coarsely toothed margins on their leaf. But again, like I said, they have berries that are toxic. They look very similar to wild grape. And who doesn't love grapes? So we can talk about those next. So wild grapes are only going to be present on, or I shouldn't say wild grapes, but the actual grapes themselves are only going to be present on female wild grapes. So male wild grape do not produce fruit. They'll produce a flower, and that happens in the early summer. You'll notice the nice springy white fragrant flower, and you'll notice that until about mid-summer, and that's when you'll notice on the female plants that those flowers have turned into these small hard green grapes. So you definitely can't eat them. It's not going to be until late summer that the grapes will actually start looking like grapes you might want to eat. But it's not going to be until like now, we're at the end of October, going into November, that you'd actually even want to eat the grapes, because wild grapes require the cold. Some species require like 3 to 4 frosts before they're actually ripe and sweet. There are some wild grape species that will never taste good. They'll never taste sweet. They'll always taste pretty tart. But most of the wild grape species that you might enjoy are going to require a few frosts before they get as sweet as they can be. And that's going to be something that sets wild grapes apart from the grapes you'd find in the store. So in the store, those mature a lot faster. They don't require the cold. They're going to be larger than wild grapes, and a lot of times they're going to be seedless. So if you were to find a wild grape out here in the park, for example, if you bit into it, it might be tart, it might be sweet, depends on the species, but you'll always find a seed in there or several seeds. And those seeds are going to be how the plant spreads, right? Wild grape does grow pretty fast, pretty quickly, and it does require a little bit of control because it grows so tall and can use those tendrils to spread out the plant. It can kind of suffocate a tree, or another kind of plant, by covering it to the point that that tree is not getting enough sunshine or the things that it needs to grow. So there are methods to control it, but technically here in Indiana we have about 7 species of wild grape, and they are native. So they might grow a little bit out of control, but technically they're not a non-native invasive plant. Throughout the next 2 weeks, I'll share some cool things about how to control grapevines if you do happen to have them, and other fun facts about grapes, which happen to be my favorite fruit. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.